into our social blog this morning, and we'll be talking about a school for the deaf in the Upper East region. We'll talk about the challenges that the deaf in general face. Right, so we're going into our social blog this morning and we're talking about the deaf. Now, overcrowding at the Gbeogo School for the Deaf in the Talenti district in the Upper East region is a major concern for the school authorities. Pupils sleep in pairs on beds and mats, and teachers fear the worst should there be an outbreak of whatever kind in the school. Wendy Lai had a report on this, but before that I'll just go straight into the discussion, and my guest this morning is James Sambian. He is the director at the Ghana National Association for the Deaf. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
It's good to have you here.
Good to be here also.
Right, so this morning we are talking about the Gbeogo School for the Deaf, but before we get into that particular school, can you give us some statistics for the deaf in the country?
Well, according to the 2010 Housing and Population Census, which was conducted by the Statistical Service, we have approximately 110,625 deaf people in Ghana. Nationwide. And, well, according to the Statistical Service, the total disability population is 3% of the total population in Ghana.
And that's disability in general.
Disability in general. And we don't know, we in the disability movement really do not know why they are using 3%. Because if we look at the World Health Organization and the international organizations, it's approximately 7% of the population in most developing countries who are, disabled. But, well, our statisticians say that, well, for Ghana, they use 3%, which then means that 3% calculated from the total population comes up to about 770 something thousand disabled persons in Ghana, and out of that number 110 are deaf people.
Right. Now, speaking about this Gbeogo School for the Deaf in the Upper East region, can you tell us exactly what the situation is like in that school?
Well, the situation is that Ghana, we have 13 schools for the deaf in Ghana, and Gbeogo is one of the deaf schools in Ghana. Now, it happens that Gbeogo has the highest enrollment of deaf children out of the 13 schools for the deaf. And that's approximately in the range of 400, a little over 400 deaf children. And the situation is that the school is overcrowded. As you rightly said, most of the facilities in the school cannot accommodate this huge population, and so there are a lot of challenges. The teachers also, most of them do not even stay in the school because there's no accommodation. And as you know, learning facilities and issues that should promote learning is also lacking. For the deaf is lacking. For example,
what kind of material?
For example, we know in these days in every school there are what we call computer laboratories where children go and learn computers and things like that, and yet in these schools like that, there's no proper computer laboratory where deaf children would be able to at least compete with their sighted counterpart. And so it's quite a difficult situation in the school. And as you know, feeding grants which should have been released by government is still pending, and so they are facing a huge challenge in these areas.
Right. Now, is this the general situation with most of the schools for the deaf in the country, or is this
it is a general situation? And if we even look at the only secondary school for the deaf in Ghana, which is at Mampong Equiapim, they do not have a computer laboratory. The only secondary school for the deaf in Ghana don't have a computer laboratory. And you and I know that even these days, even the primary schools in most of the public and private institutions have computer laboratories. And yet, the only secondary school in Ghana for the deaf has no computer laboratory. So this tells you a whole lot about
what do you think is accounting
deaf
for this neglect for these schools for the deaf?
Well, I don't know. Perhaps I can conjecture that maybe government has its focus.
But all these 13 schools are government schools?
Yeah, they are government schools. Okay. They are government schools. And also, probably, budgetary constraints may be one of the factors. I cannot talk for them. I don't know the reason why there's so much neglect. And perhaps I'm not the right person. I'm not competent enough to be able to speak to this issue. Yeah.
So, do you receive any kind of support from government at all?
Well, I work for the Ghana National Association of the Deaf. And the Ghana National Association of the Deaf is an NGO. It's a non-governmental organization. And so we depend on donors, foreign donors, and local support to be able to run the association.
Okay. So
we don't get any support from government.
Nothing at all?
No, nothing at all.
What about monies from the District Assembly's Common Fund? I believe there's a percentage that should come to you.
Well, no. The District Assembly Common Fund, 2% is set aside to support persons with disability in the various districts across the country. And so deaf people in those districts benefit, and they benefit from the 2% of the District Assembly Common Fund.
Okay.
They do
but
benefit.
Mainly your organization, you get your...
No, we don't get any support from the government at all. We don't get directly, but our members benefit from the 2% of the District Assembly Common Fund at the various district levels.
Okay, before we continue, we have a short report based on the school in the Upper East region, Gbeogo. We'll have a look at that and then we'll come back and finish with the discussion.
The Gbeogo School for the Deaf is a regional school for the hearing impaired and some multiple disabled persons. 7:30 a.m. assembly starts. It's all about sign language. For these young ones, their eyes are prized assets as they pay rapt attention to any announcements given. Established in 1996 with a population size of 411, consisting 234 boys and 177 girls from the kindergarten to the junior high level. Ordinarily, teacher-to-pupil ratio should be 1:15, but this figure exceeds.
You enter a class where we have 53, 46 and the rest is a problem, but in this case, I think the problem is how to get more structures. If we ask the teachers and even get it, where are the structures to split the classes?
Evans Asensuri Atuba, a pupil who suffers from postlingual deafness, shared his frustrations.
In the school here, if they get materials like books, bag, shoes, and it will help them to learn.
In the 2010 population and housing census, the Upper East region, with a population of slightly over 1 million, has 39,924 of persons living with disabilities. Of the total number of persons with hearing impairment in the country, the region has the highest percentage of 21.3.
How do you people feel being deaf?
I am happy being deaf because I'm here learning and it's better for me. I'm not happy being deaf because he became sick and then finally lost his hearing. I was first hearing, became deaf, and I'm now here in the deaf community. I'm not happy I'm deaf.
Pupils are supposed to have additional vocational skills training, but the infrastructure is not ready.
This facility you have seen was initiated by a Peace Corps volunteer in collaboration with the Talensi District Assembly. It's like now the Peace Corps volunteer, she has been able to fulfill her part of the contract, and that is why you can see that structure. And we are now waiting to see the District Assembly fulfilling their part. It was initiated 2013.
When they entered into the partnership, I was not the district chief executive. So when I came in, there are some technical issues that I need to clear before work can continue. We are working on that within the year 2014.
The overcrowding extends to the dormitories as well. During their siesta and evening at night, pupils in both the girls and boys dormitory cram for space. The ceiling fan knobs in some of the rooms are destroyed, exposing the electrical wires. Another major concern is a cracked wall at the boys' dormitory. 5:30 p.m. Dining hall prefects signal pupils. Tuozafi with groundnut soup was on the menu. The assistant headmaster of the school told us tables meant for technical classes are used there. The situation compels some pupils to sit on the floor while others sit outside. Despite these challenges, pupils of the Gbeogo School for the Deaf are hopeful for a better life. Wendy Lai, TV3.
Right, so that was the state of the Gbeogo School for the Deaf in the Upper East region. Yes, my guest, Mr. James Sambian, is the director of the Ghana National Association for the Deaf. Are you familiar with this particular school?
Yes.
Right. Did you see the food that they are serving to the students?
Yes, I did.
Explain it in itself.
Well,
Exactly
that is TZ.
Right.
It's a local dish could be made from millet, or it could be made from maize.
We saw the TZ, but what was
Okay.
that with the TZ?
The soup,
Is
maybe
it
some dry okra or something.
Okay, right, I see.
And
I
you noticed that there was no fish in it.
No
Did you
meat,
see any
nothing.
fish? Nothing. So probably, I don't know. They just use some, spice to make the soup a little,
I see.
Interesting.
How much pressure do you exert on government to come to your aid?
Well, the association is an advocacy group, and our work is to advocate for the improvement of the lives of our people in Ghana. And we've been making a lot of advocacy, initiatives in terms of trying to improve the lot of deaf people in Ghana. And it's quite difficult because yesterday, for example, the Minister of Finance presented the budget for 2015 to all Ghanaians. How did deaf people benefit? Because they didn't hear anything.
There was no
sign language
communicator.
interpretation or even caption to support or help deaf people also to know what is happening. And so, it's quite a big challenge. And we think that, anything that belongs to Ghanaians, every Ghanaian must have a part in it, and every Ghanaian must benefit. And so we've been making a lot of noise in collaboration with the Ghana Federation of the Disabled, which is the umbrella organization of persons in Ghana, of persons with disability in Ghana. And we're hoping that one day they would listen.
What about the budget in itself? There was nothing in it for disability or for the deaf or anything like that?
Well, I've not had the opportunity to look at the budget itself.
But what would you have
details.
liked to have seen if indeed there should be such an opportunity?
I think that it's important that education is key to the development of everybody, including persons with disability. And so I would have liked to see a lot of, investment in the education of persons with disability and deaf people, deaf children, for that matter.
Well, there's a lot of mention of education improving the sector, so I would imagine that it would cover for the disability.
I doubt, because, for example, I think the government stated that they were going to build how many? 200 new SHS. Good. And we were hoping that out of the 200 at least, government could have said that one of the 200 senior high schools that are going to be set up will be for deaf children. But that has not happened. We've advocated, we've requested the school for the secondary school for the deaf in Mampo, which I alluded to, that they don't have a computer laboratory. Yet most of the secondary schools have computer laboratories. So why is it that up till now the only secondary school does not have a computer laboratory? So maybe I'll take this platform, I use this platform to appeal to the government, and especially maybe the Ministry of Communications, to take up this issue. and see how we can get a computer laboratory for the schools for the deaf. because deaf people actually, their language is a visual language. It's not oral. It's not, it's visual, and they need a lot of. They communicate through computers, through text, and those. So they need to be able to have computers so that they'll be able to communicate with the outside world and among themselves.
Right. So in the face of all these challenges, how are the students able to fare effectively, and even when they come out of school, are they able to cope?
Well, it's difficult because of the communication barrier. I think that you and I, we take things for granted. When you wake up in the morning, for example, even before you go to brush your teeth, you open the radio, and within 2 minutes, you get a lot of information about what is happening in the country within 2 minutes, even before you go and take a shower. So how about the deaf person? That information that you got in 2 minutes
takes a long time.
The deaf person hasn't got that information. So you go to the office with some knowledge, some information already. The deaf person goes to the office without that knowledge, without that information, because of the communication barrier. He's not able to, get any information through the radio, for example. And so it's a huge barrier. And so because of that barrier, employment, it's also a challenge, because the employer feels that, well, how do I employ, how do I communicate with somebody that I'm working with, and things like that. And therefore, it's a major challenge. But I can assure you that deaf people are very good workers, because they have a lot of concentration and they have a lot of commitment to whatever task is given to them. The only problem is the communication. And I think that even our laws are trying to have addressed that aspect. Unfortunately, government institutions are not complying with the law. Because if you look at the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, Article 29, Clause 6, is very clear that any public institution that provides public service must make its facilities accessible to everybody, including persons with disability. It's there. The disability law is also there, which was passed in 2006. I believe
new buildings that are coming up have those things in place. Maybe if we talk about old buildings, then no. But a few of the new buildings.
Yeah, but even the old buildings, the disability law gave them a moratorium of 10 years, which will end in 2016. Yet go to the ministries as we sit. If you go to the ministries, you can count how many of the ministries have started, making their facility, disability friendly. And with just 2 years more for the end of the moratorium. So you can imagine, are they going to wait when it is 2016 before they start, making their facility accessible? So in Ghana, we have laws. Our laws are perfect, very good. The problem is the implementation. If we are able to implement the laws that we have, this country will move forward.
Okay. Now, the funds that you receive from the people who support you, such as Danida and the other donors, what does it go into? What kind of projects do you use those funds
for? Well, first of all, it's used to be able to get our people to access government services that belongs to everybody. For example, we are looking at the District Assembly Common Fund, the 2%. How are deaf people accessing it? We should be able to make sure that they are able to access it optimally. And so one of the things that is happening is that together with the National Council for Persons with Disability and the Ghana Federation of the Disabled, we've worked to get some guidelines as to how the fund can be disbursed. We are also...
And is that being done?
Yes, it's being done. It's being done. We are also working to see how we can get healthcare facilities accessible to persons with hearing disability, to deaf people, for example. And so part of the funds that we get is used to try and develop some kind of strategies within the health system to support deaf persons who have to attend healthcare facilities. So, for example, we have a project in the Komfonoche Teaching Hospital in Kumasi and the Ridge Regional Hospital in Accra here, where we've trained healthcare personnel to be able to provide communication and support to deaf people when they attend hospital. And this is through the kind sponsorship of Star Ghana. They are supporting us with this project. And then, of course, we are also looking at areas in terms of education how can we make sure that the children in schools are able to compete and help. And we are in talks with various agencies to get some donors, private people supporting deaf children in school in terms of providing their school fees and things like that. And of course, we are also in collaboration with the disability movement to see how we can look at other areas that will benefit persons with hearing disability.
Okay, finally, Mr. Sambian, what kind of changes would you like to see with regards to some of these schools? I know we've mentioned a lot of the challenges that you're facing, but what would be the main things that you would like to have changed?
I think the main things are, number one, I think that there's a lot to be done in terms of computers for the schools for the deaf. That's very important. Then number two, I think that it's also important for the government to begin to recognize sign language as a national language, so that any public facility make sure that they make sign language accessible to persons with disability. And so that's the second thing. First, education. Two, communication, because communication is very important. If deaf people are not able to communicate with the larger society, it's very difficult for them to integrate effectively. And so communication is another issue, and if government can make sure that it happens, it will help.
And also, of course, you did mention about the facilities, the 200 SHSs that are to be put up.
Yes.
A few of them, a couple of them could go towards people with disability.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. James Sambian is the director of the Ghana National Association of the Deaf, and he joined us this morning to talk about the challenges being faced by people living with hearing disabilities. Right. This has been the Social Block, and we'll take a break now. New Day returns shortly.